I know.
All right, welcome everyone to our Soberversary. This is an opportunity for one of our alumni to come back and speak to all of you and just share a little about their experience, their time here, and their recovery journey once they leave. And then we'll give you an opportunity to ask some questions, and then we get to enjoy some cake in the back. Does that sound good to everyone? Yeah. Fabulous. All right, everybody welcome Valerie.
I tend to mumble sometimes, so if I'm mumbling, just yell at me. I know, I do. I mumble quite a bit. Well, it's crazy to be back down here. Like, I haven't been down here for like 6 years. But I owe these last 6 years to Sobriety House. Like, I would not be where I am right now if it was not for them. Myself too, like I kind of got there too, but you know, a little bit of like backstory. I'm not gonna go too much into the history because we all know that most addicts, we have some history, right? Like most of us have adverse childhood experiences, they call them. You know, I grew up kind of homeless sometimes. My parents were both addicts, very active addicts. So me and my brothers at times were sleeping in cars and, you know, all the recipe for disaster to become an addict, which I very quickly became. I was in foster care at age 13 and was physically assaulted by the people that were fostering me. And so my grandma came and rescued me. And I'd honestly say my childhood from 13 to 17 was great. Like, I played football, like, I went to school, I got good grades, like, I had a great life. And then, you know, I got sexually assaulted at a certain age, 16 and a half, 17, and that's when kind of shit went downhill for me. I quit football, which was big for me because I was the only girl to try out and make varsity in freshman year as a defensive lineman. So I was in the nitty gritty and I loved it. But, you know, when you have these traumas that you go through and you don't deal with them, things kind of build up, right? So age 17, I quit high school. I went and got my GED right away, though. I didn't want to be like a complete failure, and started going to beauty school. And by the time I was 17, I was licensed to cut hair. I did that for years, like 20 years, but that's really when my addiction kind of took off. Every weekend, I would save my tips through the week, and every weekend, me and my friends would go buy a bunch of liquor. You know, I was 17, 18, people bought it for me, let's be real. But most of my money went to alcohol on the weekends, which then slowly graduated to introducing cocaine as well. Which then turned into methamphetamine. I remember the day, I'll never forget this day because this is kind of when I found out that I really love drugs instead of alcohol. We're sitting on the sidewalk, me and three of my friends, and we said we have $40. We can get coke and be needing more shit in like 20 minutes, or we can get some meth and stretch it a little bit. And that's when we're like, oh, more bang for the buck, let's do meth. And then that's when it was almost daily from that day on. I was working, cutting hair to get my drugs, and I lost a ton of weight. I lost family's respect. Like, my mother, who was actually sober at the time, kicked me out of the house. I was homeless. Didn't really care. I just wanted the streets anyway. It was really not the life that I wanted to be in, but I didn't know how to deal with all my shit. So I just numbed it. I did that for about 2.5 years, and then I met a guy who was Mormon, and he literally brought me back down to earth, got me sober, helped me out. He was a really good friend of mine, still is to this day. Tried to convert me, but it's fine. I said no thank you and moved on. He saved my life at that point in time. So that's, that story. I was good for like 5 years after that. I stayed sober. I worked. I, met a new guy, was engaged. Like everything was really great. And I can't honestly tell you how I relapsed again because it doesn't make sense to me. Like I was hanging out with my brother. We went to look for weed. And the next thing I know, we're in the car rolling a bubble. And it literally was like that. Like all of a sudden I'm using again. And it was pretty consistent from that point on. My son at that time was 9 months old and I relapsed and used just meth, nothing else, maybe weed occasionally, right? And then there was a significant turn when my son was taken from me in Denver County. My brother had assaulted me. The cops showed up. There were drugs. My son was taken. So at that point, I got sober again. Lasted about 14 months. Long enough for me to get my kid back. But literally the month after I got him back, I relapsed again. And, we all do things in our youth, right, that we're not freaking proud of, right? I robbed people. I'm not the nicest person to be around if I didn't have drugs. Like, I was abusive to my husband. He was abusive to me. Like, it just wasn't, all of it was toxic. It all came to a head in June of 2018. And I'll never forget this day in my life, but I was coming down. My husband was drunk, and we got into a fight. And he ended up putting me in the hospital. And at the hospital, they came and took my son again. And I don't know if you guys have kids in the system, but once they're in the system 2 times, it's damn near impossible to get them back, right? My husband went to jail for domestic battery. He was going away for a while, and I'd like to say at that moment is when I decided to get sober, but that's a lie. Like, I didn't want to feel anything. My husband was gone. My kid was gone. I started using heroin. And I fell in love with heroin. Like, absolutely in love with it. And I hate to say that, but it felt like such a warm hug after I'd been discarded by everybody and everything. Even discarding myself, So I got offered to come to Sobriety House. At first I was like, no. And then I went to my CPS court and they said, you have to go to Sobriety House. I was like, okay, just give me a little bit of time. And then the next time I went into my IOP treatment, she said, this is your bed date at Sobriety House. I was like, the fuck it is. Like, I literally told her that. I was like, no, that's too soon. That's like 3 weeks away. I can't do this. I can't do that soon. And she's like, well, either that or your son's going to get adopted out. And with his autism, he's going to be pretty hard to adopt. So he'll be in the system for a minute. So they kind of almost threatened me in a sense. But at that point, I thought, you guys are talking about my son like he's a defective puppy. And he's a child with autism. And he's my child. And so I made it here. I will say that I probably used every drug under the sun before I got here. I cracked weed. I took some gin. Like, I don't even like alcohol. Smoked heroin, meth, all of it. And I remember sitting up in that living room the day I got here, and I specifically remember people walking by me and saying, oh, she's fucked up. Like, it was embarrassing because I don't remember the first 2 days I was here, really. I wanted to leave multiple times. I had a great counselor. Her name's Kelly. She's amazing. And she really kept me grounded here. I met a few girls that I got along with, a couple I didn't, but whatever, it's girls, right? But I stuck it out. I made it through phase 1. The day I graduated phase 1, my grandma came and she told me that my son was no longer with family, that they had taken him into foster care. And I was scared. Like, in my foster care experience, I was assaulted. I didn't want that to happen to my son. I asked my probation officer, and Kelly, what can I do? Like, what do I do from here to get him back? And they said, well, maybe you could see if you could do phase 2. And so I started phase 2. I stayed 74 days total here. And it was amazing. Like, I can't say anything other than that. Like, yes, there were days when I was like this, like, I don't want to do this anymore. But there was also that support system that kept me from walking out the door, which was super helpful. Like, even the other clients are like, no, get your ass in your room, go take a chill pill, like, drink some cold water, you're fine. Like, you can stay here. And so I made it to the 74-day mark and decided to leave. I think it was time. I went to sober living, and that was an experience in itself. I first got there, and there's girls snorting pills off their dresser. Our manager's up at 3 o'clock in the morning scrubbing the bathroom floor. Like, it was just so triggering for me that I almost did leave and relapse. But instead, I guess you can call me a snitch, but I call my PO, like, where did you put me? Like, these people are doing drugs. Like, this is not conducive to my sobriety. Like, listed all these things that I did not like about this sober living. And then the owners, 2 days later, said, come talk to us. And I thought I was getting kicked out. But then they actually offered me a management job as a house manager. They said, you obviously know what's best for sobriety and other people and yourself, so we want you to come open our other house and be the manager. I was like, all right, like, I'm sorry I called you guys out. And they're like, we needed to hear it. So it was pretty cool. That started what I do now. So now I'm a peer support specialist. You guys know what that is? Like, all of you in this room could be peer support specialists. It's an amazing job. You can literally put all your felonies and all your shit on the table, and they're like, you're hired. Like, it's the weirdest thing ever. Like, most of the time you put your felonies out there, you're not hired. And you don't even get a phone call back. But, yeah, I got hired on as a peer support and worked in the Aurora shelters with Mile High Behavioral Health Care. They started my career, and they're amazing. They helped me really grow into somebody that could be a support for other people. And so being a house manager and being a peer, I really grew a compassion for just helping people in recovery. Even strangers on the street. Like, I keep Narcan with me everywhere I go. I've brought a few people back. I've lost a couple of people too on the streets, but I'm lucky that I got out before fentanyl became a thing, right? Like, if I would have tried blues, I don't even know where I would be, because I lost, a lot of friends, and my mother's still addicted to blues. Like, they're everywhere, and it's horrible. Heroin, not great either, but this fentanyl being introduced is absolutely killing people, and at a very rapid rate. So I do work with harm reduction. I meet people where they're at, out in the street with street outreach teams. Like, I really stay active in my recovery, because if I don't do that, then life could very easily kick you down, right? As I call it, life will be lifing. They, a good example of all that, like, I'm strong in my sobriety. I feel good in my sobriety. I don't have desire to use. However, things come up where it does cross your mind. Like, it's not magically erased. It will never magically be erased, right? In November of last year, I had a miscarriage on the 23rd. And then 3 days later, my brother passed away. And he's my little brother. He's 36 years old. And, sorry, still fresh. He was drinking really bad. He was closet drinking. He was telling everybody he's fine, but then he'd wake up and there's black bruises all over and we don't know where they came from. He kind of lost 2 really good jobs that he had. I have a little bit of guilt still that I'm working through. I feel like I should have reached out more and dragged him out of his hole. But in all actuality, when we want to use and drink and isolate, we're going to do it. And even the closest people to you can be blind to whatever's going on, right? So he developed cirrhosis of the liver in 3 years of drinking, which is insane to me. Not even really hard liquor, some vodka, but it's mostly Voodoo Rangers, Mike's Harder Lemonade. Like, those things gave him alcoholic hepatitis, which he came back from. If you guys don't know, alcoholic hepatitis, you can be healed from that. That's curable. Once you go into cirrhosis, that's done. You're done. Your liver's done. It's not reversible. You can get liver transplants if you're deemed appropriate for it. And a lot of alcoholics are. Let's be honest. So he unfortunately passed away alone in his room, and that alone was enough to make me think about using. It's a coping skill, right? And when you lose someone that close, you don't really think about the good coping skills at that moment. But I was very fortunate to have my husband, who's now sober, my grandmother, who's still my rock in my life. I had all my family, and my parents, they're just too drunk or high to handle any of it. So I took on everything, planned the funeral, everything. That kept me sober too. I had to be sober for that. You can't do that when you're not sober. And so, going through that loss, it really showed me ooh, I still think of drugs sometimes. I thought I had it in check. But so I started going back to meetings. I know you guys do meetings here. Mandatory, but still productive, right? My my first home group was actually in this basement. Used to be on Sundays, called a wake up call. And that group of people, it's a NA. That group of people really, really helped me through so much. I can call them at 2:00 in the morning. Say, hey, I'm thinking about my brother. I want to go have a drink, which I don't even like alcohol. But that was the first thought in my mind. And, they answered the phone and said, no, come over. We'll shoot some pool in my basement. At 2:00 in the morning, they're exhausted. I know they're exhausted. But they literally supported me through all of that. And I got a sense that I couldn't do this even still without community. Other people that know where you're at, know what you're going through. There's a fine balance, right? You can't associate with the people that are on a downward spiral. So learning that balance too of who's going to help me and who's going to hurt me. That's another challenge in itself. But now I work in recovery court in Jefferson County. It's freaking cool. Like, I sit in the courtroom every week and I see clients struggle, but then I see them get up, and then I see them succeed and graduate. And just being a part of that is, it's my motivation. And to hear them say, hey, I couldn't have done this without you. Like, that tells me I'm doing something right now. I also work at the STIRT program at ICCS. ICCS gets a bad rap, right? For those of you that know what it is. It's a halfway house, but there is a treatment program inside of it. A 21-day. And it reminds me a lot of this place because they're stuck there. I mean, granted, you guys could leave at any time if you really wanted to. It's your own free will. But they're either court ordered to be there or they have to complete it for whatever reason, right? It reminds me a lot of phase 1, where you don't always get along with people. Like, there's bickering, there's arguing, but then there's good moments too, right? So I think I relate to both recovery court and STIRT. So it's actually kind of the perfect job for me right now. I love Soho. Like, I can't even tell you guys. Even this place gets on your nerves sometimes, and you're like, oh, I gotta get up at what time? I gotta make my bed every morning. Like, I got Brenda for that, so make your beds every morning, okay? I'm like, I don't want to leave the house at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I called it going to school, right? We were at Stepping Stone, which was not too far from here, but I'm like, oh, gotta get on the bus to go to school, and we come to groups over here every day, and it gave me routine. You guys need routine when you leave here. Even if it's going to the gym, which I don't do, but a lot of people love it. I'm good on that. But, having those routines, because having that community, super important. Knowing your support system. Knowing what you're going to do if you fall. Because not a lot of us plan that, right? Not a lot of us want to fall, but not a lot of us know what to do when we do fall. So having that plan before you even leave here, I would highly recommend that. And then contact cleanse. You guys know what that is? Have you heard of it? It's fun. Yes. Your phone, your emails, your everything. The second you leave here, the second you can get your phone, because phase 2 can have their phones, right? Second you get your phone, delete every single person out of that phone that has anything to do with drugs. And I will tell you this out of experience, keeping someone in your phone, like I kept my dealer in my phone because I owed him $40 when I went to rehab. And I planned on paying him back. No. Let's be honest, my $40 is not going to faze him. He makes enough money off of other people. That is called a reservation. I was holding his number in my phone just in case. And it took me about 2 months after leaving Soho to realize that I didn't really need it. And what made me realize that is having a argument with one of the girls in my sober living. I called my dealer. He's like, why are you calling me? I was like, I owe you $40. I wanted to. He's like, no. He's like, don't call me again. Lose my number. He's like, I love you. Bye. And he was honestly like perfect at that moment, because I probably would have paid his $40, but I probably would have paid a little bit more. So he was like, no, I love you. Bye. And then I deleted his number. And it was super important to have that. So I'm like all over the place. But I promise there's method to my madness, right? Coming back here, sharing your story, getting the word out there. Sober events, like there's a recovery rally every year that Advocates for Recovery does. It's third Saturday of every September. And it's an amazing event. It's at Civic Center Park, which can be triggering for some. But they really make it inviting. And there's so many vendors and lots of just positive things. There's Sober Underground. It's like literally a go kick it place. You shoot pool. There's karaoke. There's open mic nights. Like, get involved in that stuff as well, because that's going to be your guys' out when you're feeling not like you're not going to be able to get through. So I love that you guys welcome me back down in here. I'm still super nervous because talking in front of a bunch of people is crazy. But I hope you guys got something out of my story. And I just really appreciate all you guys listening and sitting here through this. And I don't know what else to say.
It's okay, we can
I'm like, was that too quick? Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for Valerie?
Yeah, go for
Get a
it.
cool pink shirt when you can
Right? Okay, so I found it on Facebook. Apparently, it wasn't Sobriety House to put these out. It was like a side, but it's fine. I know, they're making money off of Sobriety House. I thought, now that I know that, I'm like, what? But I had to support it. I had to support it tonight. And
Any other questions?
I'm an open book. You can ask me anything.
Where's your son at now?
My son's with me. I got my son back. I forgot to mention that part. After I'd been in sober living and managed sober living for about a year, COVID started happening, right? And they called me and they're like, "Hey, how would you like your son back?" And I was like, yeah, like, fuck yeah. Like, this was the goal. And so I trained other girls to become manager, and I went home and had my kid, and my husband went through his program and sober, and we're reunited, and we hardly ever argue anymore, which is amazing. We both had to separate and work on ourselves, right? Like, if you guys have been in a codependent relationship and you both use, sometimes it's just better to go your separate ways. And if it's meant to be, it will come back together, which is hard to accept at the time when you're separated and you're used to having that someone, even if it's a negative space. Just getting away and working on yourselves, because you can't really come back and be whole if you're not whole yourself. So we're good. My son just turned 12 yesterday, and yeah, he's a good kid. So no adopting my kid out. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. I forgot to tell you guys that. That was a big thing too. You think I would have mentioned it? Yeah.
What are some of your healthier coping skills now?
Healthier so I do, I go to soccer with my kid. That's a healthy coping skill, getting outside, doing things outdoors, getting fresh air. I still, to this day, and I did it at Stepping Stone, I get up every morning and I write on a whiteboard 5 things I'm grateful for. And it just helps me keep things in perspective, especially through when my brother died. It was really hard to find things that I was grateful for. Like, me and him were 3 years and 3 days apart. We're so close. So at that moment, I found it harder, but I still did it every morning. I still go to NA. I even go to AA meetings. Not really big into alcohol, but I did drink it, and it is a substance. And there's actually some pretty kick-ass AA meetings out there. So I kind of go to both. So meetings, family, outdoors. I eat a lot, but that's not a very healthy. I bake and eat a lot, which the baking part's cool, but don't eat all the crap you bake. Finding something to do with your hands, a hobby, or even a job that's going to keep your hands and your head busy, but not overwork you to the point where you burn out and just done with life again, because that could be dangerous too. So yeah.
Where would I go about getting a peer support specialist job like yours?
Right. So I went through Colorado Mental Wellness Network. They're They're awesome. There's many other programs out there. Advocates for Recovery also does it, which they're a bit cheaper than Colorado Mental Wellness Network. But you go 80 hours training, you have to take a state exam, and you have to register with the state website. So it's like a licensure, pretty much. It's a certification that you have to renew every 2 years. And yeah, Advocates for Recovery is great too, and they're probably the cheapest you'll find in Colorado. But it's not cheap quality. You know what I mean?
How long sober you have to have before you can do that? Like a year?
Usually about a year. They like any job you're trying to get is a peer will want you sober for at least a year and off paper. So no probation, parole, none of that. There may be some mom and pop or like small nonprofit that would hire you less than a year sober, but not many will. Because I'll tell you, my first 2 years I wasn't strong enough to really be like a peer per se. Like I started as a peer like a year and 6 months sober. I probably could have waited another 6 months though, because like working in the Aurora shelters, I don't know if you guys have been out there. It's horrible out there. Like I watched a client get murdered right in front of me, and it was like it was crazy. It was something I didn't expect. I asked my job to transfer me, and they did not, and that's when I left that job because I just could not be in those shelters anymore. They're not dry shelters. People are very high, very drunk a lot of the time. So finding the right peer job that will I think those requirements are great. The 1 year sober at least. Like, that first year should be all about you. All about you. Even before your kids. Even before your family. Like, it should just be you. I learned here in my NA meeting, one of the guys said, and this will stick with me forever, but he said, whatever you put before your recovery will be the first thing you lose if you go out.
Oh,
right? So even if I put my kid before my recovery, if I use, that kid's gone. Like, I had to put me first, which was, I was selfish before, but in a negative way. There's a difference between being selfish in a positive way and a negative way. I had to be positively selfish. Yeah.
How, you said you had so much on your plate when your brother passed. How did you feel that you grieved the most?
I'm still grieving. Okay. Oh yeah, 100%. I go to therapy. You know, I go to my meetings. Therapy has helped me out tremendously. Like, you can go to meetings all day long, but you really need somebody that you can spill everything to. I don't know if it's good. Kobe, I got a tattoo of his name. That was last week, actually. More to be added. So this is going to be, like, my thing for my brother. Like, so I write poems. Like, there's so many things that I'm still doing to help me get through the process. Because I think about him every day. I think about him. I feel guilt a lot of the time. Because here I am working with complete strangers that are addicted and trying to help them. But I feel like I couldn't help him at times. So there's that. I guess my therapist called it survivor's guilt. Which is crazy to me. But just knowing that I wasn't able to help him still hurts. So there's still grief. It was only, 5 months ago? 6 months? Yeah. So it's fresh still. But I'm working on it.
Any final questions? All right. Give a round of applause to Valerie. Our next Soberversary will be July 17th. Oh man, let's see if I know how to end it.